Hello, everyone. It is Scott here with a status of the cinema for Labor Day, Monday, September 5th, 2016. I did one of these about a year ago after the whole blip fiasco. Did it in August. And I did one for the earlier in the year, and I did the lost episodes leading up to Halloween, and then things were back on track a little bit. Those lost episodes came out after Christmas time, and we got to the fourth anniversary to cap off things with the end of the year. And I then did 3 movies after that, and I've done nothing since the spring. I had plans for a bunch in the springtime, but I took I said it back in the thing, I took a self-imposed break. Just because I wanted to work on other things. And suddenly it's early September, and I haven't. But I've needed the break from it. It's similar to a thing where SpoonyExperiment.com, he talked about doing a Final Fantasy review, and he wasn't sure where to go with it because he couldn't figure out the story part. And he's like, I should be more worried about the review than the story. Well, that's not my problem. I have the story worked out perfectly, and I've got the review stuff figured out as well. And I could easily just make these things happen. I had movies planned to tie in with Ghostbusters and Turtles when those were in theaters, and stuff like that, to go similar with Batman versus Superman, with Man of Steel and Batman Not Begins, the 66 movie, and all that stuff. And to go from there and actually just do it. But the views since the whole blip thing have been nothing. Box Officer doesn't get many more views compared to GPC. And Box Officer, I do my research, I turn on the camera, and I talk a little bit about it. I think it through. A lot of it is kind of like live reaction as I go, and as I'm realizing stuff, then I record it. GPC is hours of work. At least 3 hours to watch the movie and write. And then editing it. It has gotten a lot quicker with the new format, but a lot of people don't like the new format, and I've lost viewers because of that. And now I know some still do it. Probably my favorites are like Cinema Snob, Movie Nights, former Obscurus Lupa. Those ones still do the full like footage of the movie and stuff, and I've just decided to walk away from the whole potential of a free, fair use battle. I've got nothing to fight with, because my reviews were always summaries. They weren't review, they were just summarizing the movie and making jokes as we go. Very Mystery Science Theater in a way, but they licensed their movies. I didn't. So I feel I never really had a thing as far as a fight against, I'm using it for fair use. No, it wasn't. Fair use covers review. Beyond that, I'd use footage in it. And I didn't have the rights to use those clips either. And I'd get claims, weird claims, from when I tried to put up past GPC episodes on YouTube. And it's like, Paramount owns this. It's a Warner Brothers movie. Why does Paramount have a claim here? But it's not worth it when it's all my stuff. I've had one claim since. It was for Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, the Hyperbowl episode I did, and Paramount claimed it for footage. Like, no, it's literally this right here, turn the camera on, turn the camera off, and I had a poster of the movie here, imposed into the screen. And I said, it's a review. I did a review, like a first impressions kind of thought review of it. And they're like, yeah, all right, here you go. And they rented it through the normal, proper process. So, there you go. They might have just been going through looking for people who had put up Scout's Guide type stuff. Now, I stopped doing Trailer Fist because, first off, it's reaction videos before I even know what reaction videos are, and I didn't have as many jokes for it. It wasn't as well thought out as it could be. I wanted to do one for the Furious 7-second teaser, right? Like get all the stuff and then suddenly it's over, but I didn't have any real material to work with it. The idea of a joke for that is better than the actual joke I would have got. So, stuff like that happen things, and I cut out the quarterlies. I said before I was going to make the quarterly shows like Trailer Fist, Indications, and Overrated. Well, Trailer Fist, as I mentioned. Overrated was going to be a horrible problem if I tried to go that route, because I don't want to try to come up with something and force myself to talk about something. I'd rather it be as it comes, because I already got to that point when I did Titanic. I'd run out of ones I really wanted to talk about as far as this movie's overrated kind of thing. And Indications ended up being its own thing, where I did take time from it because of the story I was doing with The Indicator. But I wanted to do the idea of he'd been doing it anyway. That's what the tape was. All that time between the anniversaries, he'd been doing Indications episodes. And yet I see those as more full-on scripted type stuff. My favorite is still the one for Fast and Furious that is in my head. And someday, obviously I plan to do it, because I've had things where the Indicator is like, he's gone, or is he? And that's the whole other thing as well. But the concept is still there and the video is still there. I just literally need shelves for the DVDs and don't have them, and it becomes a thing. So that's its whole thing. And it just became focused on GPC, Hyperbole, and Box Officer. The Box Officer is a thing I did anyway, because I looked at the box office footage, or the box office results for movies, and I would just write them in with Excel format. I like lists and stuff and tracking things and seeing where things fall. I like movie history. I like awards history. I like wrestling history. I like sports history. I like to see history. I like to see it as it happens. So that's part of what the box office type thing is. When it's like, man, how's that compared to last year? And I have my own stuff. I don't just have Box Office Mojo. I have my own things, and I track it that way. I figured, why not do a show about that? And yeah, it's low production compared to other stuff. It's just basically me sitting like this with the text here, but I like to think it's more about the context and content of it, because anyone can just talk about, it made $4 million. Yeah, but what's that mean? So I try to put that in it, and I'm going to keep doing that one indefinitely. I like that one. It's fun. I enjoy it. I don't want to say it's minimal effort, but for the results, it's worthwhile effort, and I can bump it a little bit here and there and try to get more out of it, so that's good. Hyperbole is just simply the show when I watch a movie. I go see something, and that's like the reactions that night, depending. Sausage Party was a couple days later. A few of them are always a couple days later, depending on when I get home. I don't want to sit there and start recording something and editing it when I'd rather just go to bed, because I work in the morning. Because this is a 100% hobby. Has been for 5 years. So that's why Hyperbole sometimes is there. And yes, I know it's hyperbole, but I know Hyperbole has become its own kind of word thing, and I'm not trying to make it be the right way to do it. That's why I say, I know it's hyperbole, but Hyperbole makes it mine. That's the joke. That's the joke. GPC, well, actually on Hyperbole's note, there are other movies I want to do that I've not seen that I have, like The Mechanic. I want to see Mechanic Resurrection, but I'd rather see the first Mechanic first. So where do I put those? Because Hyperbole is always more like a theatrical thing. I could just do them there anyway. This has been something I've been thinking of for over a year, but I've never actually just done it because I never really review those ones as I see them. And yet I could have done one for The Interpreter, because I saw that over Christmas, and I could have done a quickie review there. And my whole review scale is basically turned into, do I regret seeing it or not? Or the one I thought of was almost like a top 10 idea of the levels of when you should see it, like run to the theater, or like run to the theater opening night, or midnight, or wait for cheap night, or a matinee, or wait for it on video, or check it on Netflix, or, don't turn it off when it's on TV, that kind of descending scale, or just avoid altogether. That's kind of where I'm going with that whole concept of actually reviewing with a score, because I don't want to put numbers on it. Because one movie's 6 is different from another movie's 6. I remember talking about that last year with friends after we saw the new Fantastic Four. Then we saw something else, and he's like, well, it's better than better than this and this. And I'm like, well, it's not better than two Fantastic Fours. And that became the weird score of it because it doesn't quite fit. So I never want to put that, because Fantastic Four, I'd say, was like an even 5. It did not succeed or fail in any way. It was just kind of there. And yet I have more problems with things like Suicide Squad or Batman vs. Superman, but I give them higher numbers score-wise. So that's why I don't like the number system for it, or the letters like an A or a B. On the note, Chris Stuckman reviews actually is something that's kind of trying to be an inspiration to me. Thanks to Matt Zion mentioning it, actually. I like his stuff. I like his take on things. I like how he just kind of goes out there, describes what it is and what he thought, and analyzes it a bit. And I like that. And that's maybe the way to go for Hyperbole, or the side reviews of past stuff that I get around to. So where's that put the GPC? It puts it in a tough spot, because there hasn't been a review in a while, and it's another long gap. I think the longest gap now between reviews. Longer than the whole blip to Halloween thing, because that was August to October. No, sorry, July to October. Maybe even June. Yeah, Fantastic Four was supposed to be June. That's June to October. And here we are, I think, June. It's going to be June to October, at least. So, I wanted to do a whole witch month with witch hunter movies, because there's so many of those now, and they're right up my alley. And I've had ideas for those for the longest time. That's one of the earlier ones I wanted to do, was a bunch of those, and they kept making them. It's great. And I wanted to do, like I said, Ghostbusters. Not 2, that's a Christmas movie. That would be always, if it's a Christmas movie, I would save it for Christmas time. Do Ghostbusters, do Turtles, either Turtles 2 or the remake Turtles, to tie in with Out of the Shadows. Out of the Shadows is an amazing, fun, GBC-worthy movie as well in its own accord. And then eventually we get to 3, obviously, and the animated TMNT, and go from there, so on and so forth. Independence Day was actually a perfect one for it, with Independence Day Resurrection. But that was literally, the problem with that is time limit. What do I do with that? I have a time limit to work with, and that's no good. So that became a problem, because I wasn't feeling it. I wanted to work on the Bear movie, which still is woefully underwritten, and hit September, and I knew I wasn't going to shoot it this year, but I thought I'd at least have it written by this point, and I don't. And I look at all the work I put into GPC, and I get nothing out of it. That's a lie. I've gotten friends out of it, which is more valuable than anything else. I'm telling you right now, the GPC is not ending. I'll just say that. I do plan to do the 5th anniversary. The last episode of the GPC is going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark. I knew that going in. That is my other favorite movie, along with Predator. Just, okay. The 5th anniversary will not be Raiders, and neither will the episode after that, or whatever it is. But it will definitely be an ultimate hiatus. The idea that I can come back to it here, there, and everywhere. Because the audience that I had is not there. The views are not there. It's not worth it. Passion only takes you so far. And I've lost it. This is like a Shawn Michaels, I've lost my smile kind of thing. I can put all that work into it, and then 2 weeks later look at it and see it's gotten maybe 12 views. 12. It doesn't work. Matt's tried to pimp the site. The Rangoon guys have tried mentioning it. It just doesn't work. The audience is not there for a positive look at bad movies. They want the anger. They want the negativity. That's not for me. So I do still plan to do all those Witch Hunter movies. I still plan to actually do Ghostbusters and Independence Day and all that stuff. And even Christmas. The obvious one, I teased that. And Halloween, man, that one's perfect for it. But I don't think I'm going to be doing any of those right now. I think instead it's focus on the 5th anniversary, which is not much of an anniversary considering. And it's going to really be... Oh man, it smells my hair. It's going to be like the movie. kind of, in that it would hold its own accord anyway, in some ways. Oh, that's horrible. I don't know what happened up there. Whatever, that'll work. So yeah. Yeah. Things are not what they could have been or should have been, as far as I'm concerned with this. I never did this for the money or the exposure or the anything. I did this because I thought there was an audience for it and a niche for it, and it would work out, and people would like it, and it would go from there. So far, I haven't seen that. I have seen that, but not to the extent of it's worth to continue. Now, so in that regard, the end of February, if it even is then, is the 5th anniversary. It could be whenever it ends up being. I'm not putting that solid date on it because it's just it, but it's going to happen. It's going to be Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. I can see the whole entire thing in my head perfectly. It's one that's got to happen, and it's not the end, but it is for now. And that's kind of why I've been putting this off, because I didn't want to really do it, but considering I'm making no progress on the summer or the fall, yeah. So, guiltypleasurecinema.com, youtube.com/CyclopsScott, same on Twitter, Guilty Pleasure Cinema on Facebook. Like, favorite, subscribe, comment, let me know. Let me know what you think, let me know where you're at, let me know what your ideas are. Let me know what I should do if you want to see it continue. Considering that no one's really been like, oh no, it's not here anymore. No one's missed it. Except me. So, 5th anniversary, and then Bear movie. And then we'll see what happens. So that's the status. Thanks again.